Welcome everybody to our webinar tonight. My name is Sam Petro and I'm the technical producer for our webinar. The webinar, Bridging the Intergenerational Communication Gap, will be presented by Joni Cohen. Joni Cohen is currently serving the fraternity as Coordinator of Chapter Support for Ada, Eota, and Pi North provinces. That gives her a whole lot of chapters and advisory boards that she's working with. Joni?
Thanks, Sam. And again, as with Sam, thank you for being here tonight as advisors to our chapters. Let's take a look at the agenda for the webinar. We're looking at the most challenging part of our work with our collegiate women. There are not only you, advisors, who are attending tonight, but some House Board Kappas and province officers as well. And I look forward to all of you being very active during our time together. I certainly do not have all the answers for how to communicate among our far-flung generations of Kappas. Your input will be critical to the success of this webinar. There will be quick polls where you're asked to vote on an issue, and other times you'll be asked to give us your impressions, ideas, and suggestions. Your sharing is going to determine how many good ideas are given to others, so thanks for taking part actively. My guess is that you are in attendance so that you can learn some tips for working with our millennials, these young women in our chapters, and you advise. We Kappas need to be able to network with one another so that we can share more ideas in the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. Our Kappa generations are listed here, and Sam is going to launch a poll now where we're asking you to show us which generation you are. So go ahead. Record which generation you belong to based on your birth date. We'll be having a conversation about homelanders later, so as there are certainly no homelanders with us tonight.
So go ahead and click on here and choose. You're either a traditionalist, a baby boomer, a Gen X, and a millennial. And Joni, it looks like we have about 44% of baby boomers. Another 44% are our millennials, and then 12% are Gen X. So that's probably one or just two people.
There you go. So I am the only traditionalist in attendance today. Let's go on to understanding differences between our generations, how we are different, and how we are alike. So as a traditionalist born before 1946, as I was, I remember a time when radio programs were a family affair. We grew up in an era where people saved their money and the divorce rate was low. We watched movies with Marlon Brando and Marilyn Monroe in the theater, and we were willing to roll up our sleeves and pitch in and get a job done. You know you are a baby boomer if you were born between 1946 and 1964. You remember running home to watch the Mickey Mouse Club after school. You recall typing term papers. You watched Elvis movies in the theater. James Kirk captained the Enterprise. And you remember the moon landing. You watched every episode of Leave It to Beaver and Gilligan's Island. You know you're a Gen Xer if you were born between 1965 and 1980. You grew up wearing polo shirts with alligators on them. You remember playing asteroids. You've ridden backwards in a family station wagon. Your first favorite movies were E.T. and Star Wars. You know you're a millennial if you were born between 1981 and 1999. This generation also called Generation Y. You've always had voicemail at home, and an automatic is a weapon. You've never used a typewriter and always played video games. Prescription drugs have always been advertised on television. Mission Impossible, Wild Wild West, Batman are movies, not television shows. Now it's time for Kappas to share. Given your generation and your experiences, will you now please share the stereotypes of collegiate women as you and your contemporaries think of them? Go ahead and type your thoughts in the questions pane.
Okay, let's see. Overscheduled, expect things to come easily. They're last-minute doers. They respond with very little lag time. Instant gratification is expected. Their cell phones are Velcroed on. They're too busy and stressed. They're self-absorbed. They're non-planners. It's all about them. Everyone gets a medal.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks, Kappa, for your input. So we are different, but why is she, our college woman, the millennial, different? She likely did not experience much in the way of corporal punishment. The military to her has always been only for volunteers. She may not have done much in the way of heavy lifting. She's always had plenty of positive strokes. She saw corporate America let a lot of people down. She expects less loyalty from you. Well, let's get positive now, and Kappa, share your ideas as to the positive attributes of the collegiate woman and what it is like to work with her. Please go ahead and type in your comments now.
Okay, use that question panel again. They are willing to brainstorm and try new ideas. They're always plugged in. They want to make a difference in the world. They're very accomplished and very mature. They're good joiners. They want to succeed. They're driven and doers.
Thanks again, Kappa. Great thought. Indeed, we all bring preconceived ideas about other people we work with, whether it be in our workplace, our volunteer work in schools, churches, or with our youngest Kappas in their chapters. If we all thought the same way, we would never develop new ideas, embrace change, or move our organization forward. To skip ahead to our next generation of collegians for a minute, some information. Some call them homelanders, as they were born after the year 2000 into the world of America's homeland security. Their defining historical moments are 9/11 and the Great Recession. They're digital natives. Their preference is Apple products. We can't really predict yet what they will look like. What about our 2015 graduating seniors, either high school or college seniors? These characteristics apply to the class of 2015. Well, what does this all mean in our volunteer advising, our work with Kappa? We've explored how our generations are all so different, but in this world we call Kappa, how are we alike? Why is it that we are advisors to our youngest Kappas in our chapters? Well, we have much to share, perhaps best stated in our Kappa key messages. Given these key messages of inspiring, preparing, impacting, and connecting, we should see that our goals as Kappa advisors are what bind us to these young collegians. Our aspirations are the same as theirs. Let's look at how we all like to be treated. The overriding idea for advisors and actives alike is that we all want to be treated with respect. What we want as Kappa volunteers is not any different than what college women want. Do you agree? In our advisor orientation webinars last week, we stressed these points as suggestions for working with our collegiate women today. Be an active listener. What do you love about Kappa? Ask her. Be dedicated to your officer's success. You might talk with her about why she wanted to be the chapter marshal. Be curious. Ask her to tell you about her dreams, her family, her work, and study. Be engaged with her surroundings. Learn what's happening on campus, in the chapter, with other advisors. Be willing to step out of your comfort zone and try things a new way. Our job as advisors is to guide our collegians to make their decisions, to be creative in their thinking, and to encourage them to make changes from the old way of doing things or planning events. This is where we must pay attention to our CAPA documents and use our common sense as adults. If the chapter wants to do something that might be seen as violating fraternity bylaws, standing rules, or policies, work with your advisee to achieve her new plan. Model the 3 R's of responsible, respectful, and ready. Ready to work, ready to be on time. Be yourself. Be open. Talk about generational issues in a friendly atmosphere with her. At our convention in 2014, our youngest CAPAs told us these things about themselves. Now, the descriptors on this slide are those for all of our generations represented in CAPA Sisterhood today, active and alumni alike. And some of these descriptions may seem to conflict, don't they? But these represent all of us at our differing stages in life.
Joni, we have one comment here actually on this slide, and that is that I don't think they're interested in these things about us because it seems all focused on them.
A great point. I think all of us feel that way at some time or another. I'm always one who will believe that face-to-face communication is the best, and whenever we can sit down with the young women that we are advising, or Skype with them, that's the best possible way to perhaps break this barrier. I would even be so bold as to ask, what do you want to know about me? It might put her on the spot for a couple of minutes, but maybe she'll get to understand more about this CAPA advising adventure when she knows that you are interested in her, she becomes interested in you, makes it a two-way street. Most likely, they will connect you with their mom, their older sister, maybe their grandmother, their aunt, mom's best friend. These young women like connections, so I would almost force the issue and ask her what she wants to know about you. Maybe it'll work. Now, CAPAs, will you please send in your comments as these next 2 slides go by? We need your input and comments. So how do we advisors do these things and with our millennials? The business professionals in their HR journals and blogs have given these suggestions as to managing millennials. Providing structure, leadership and guidance, encouraging her self-assuredness and can-do attitude, taking advantage of her comfort levels with teams, encourage her to join, and take advantage of her computer, phone, and electronic literacy, of course. Let's capitalize on her affinity for networking. Know that she's a multitasker, encourage her to seek challenge and change, help her create a life, study, and work balance, and provide a fun atmosphere in which to work. Any thoughts from anybody, Sam?
I do have one question here for you, Joni, and that is how do the baby boomer volunteers deal with what they feel is a lack of respect or interest that these women show us when our alumni elders always stood for, that when we always had to stand when our alumni and advisors entered the room. They're not doing the same thing for us as we're coming into the rooms.
Another good question, and as this traditionalist that I am always impressed when a chapter jumps to their feet when I walk in the room, and yes, you have to get over it making you feel older. It is still appropriate for younger women to stand and greet an older person when she enters the room. This still is correct etiquette. Etiquette workshops for our collegians are important at this point, I believe. They will be out in the professional job search soon, if not already, some of them, and they're standing when an older person or their potential employee enters the room. That's expected, and it's noted by the person who may be looking to hire them. Alumni advisors, we are the ones who so often need to teach these skills to our collegians as they do not learn these things at home. So yes, I believe that standing when an older person comes into the room, their grandmother, their, as I say, potential employer, is important, and it oftentimes needs to come from us, modeling it for them.
Mm-hmm. I have one comment that's related to that, actually, and this is from a millennial. As a millennial, I think the concept of rising when others come into the room is something out of the past and is not realistic to expect in this day and age unless you are a very significant dignitary on a very special occasion. I think a little, just from my perspective, is just the acknowledgement of the alums. I do remember having to stand up when the alums came in the room, and it seemed a little bit forced at times. It's truly about acknowledging someone that comes in the room, and I think that's a little bit what Joni was trying to say as well.
Great. Thank you. The next are two slides of different communication vehicles that are common today for all generations to use. Take a look at this first list and vote for your favorite, that which you prefer over the others as a successful way to be in touch with your peers and those of other generations.
Okay, so you're going to go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, the poll groups these in groups of 2 or 3 together, so read them carefully before you vote. Mm-hmm. You only get to vote for one.
Okay, so you're going to choose between U.S. mail and newsletters. You're going to choose telephone calls or voicemail, FaceTime or Skype, face-to-face, which would be considered a coffee meal together on or off the campus, or we'll give you the option for none of the above. So go ahead and pick one. And Joni, it looks like we're pretty split on our answers here between none of the above and then face-to-face and the coffee or meal on or off the campus.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens with this next slide. These are the communication vehicles that our millennials are most comfortable with, and that includes 44% of you who are on this webinar tonight. Many of you see the methods that you use most often as well. So go ahead and pick your favorite from this poll.
And your choices here together are email and text together, Instagram, Snapchat, WhatsApp, Facebook or Facebook Messenger together, the Google Conference, Google Calendar, Yahoo group, or your last choice is help, I'm not comfortable with any of these. Oh, Joni, these are very interesting results, and we have 100% that says email and text as their favorite choice on this slide.
All right, there you go. So now what are we going to do with this information? What can some of us do to get out of the comfort zone and get more comfortable with what our millennials are using? I want to share comments from a college consultant here who works with social media. He works with universities on social media and communication, saying that schools often have an outsized expectation for students when it comes to all things technology. He says they are no better at managing email than anyone else. Here's a college literature professor who was shocked by the looks on the faces of his students when he popped a quiz and they seemed to not have any idea about the reading assignment. He had changed the assignment and the students had not checked their email. He says to the students, email is antiquated. An addendum to this conversation I had while visiting a chapter this past weekend. This particular chapter's women told me that email is what they respond to best. That is the chapter's agreed upon communication vehicle. There's a lesson here. You need to agree with your advisee on what you will use to communicate together. One response to the notion that email is antiquated or it's too slow, of course, is texting. The college girl always has her cell phone with her, or as one of you said, she has it Velcroed to herself. She's on the move, and this is the method that many Kappas tell us is the best way to get in touch with their advisee. It almost demands an immediate response. It isn't always easy at the start. And for those who do not text but know that you have to learn to be part of their world, it's a good idea that you have, when you have your first face-to-face or your Skype meeting with your advisee, that you exchange phone numbers, of course, and then ask your advisee to teach you how to text if you don't know how. She'd love if she has taught you something. Texting leads to other methods of communication. While texting is not the only answer, of course, to get responses back from your advisee, it's a good one. You can text, as that college professor might have done. He might have sent a text to his students and said, please read my email. Now back to other methods of communication. As I said earlier, Kappas, I'm one who believes in that face-to-face meeting as being the most effective. But we all know that that's not always possible or easy. And one idea I had that seemed that worked very well with some advisory boards and house boards I work with is that of a contract or an agreement between the chapter council and their advisors, and the house boards included in this as well very often. These Kappas agree that they will respond to any communication within 24 hours, no longer. Even if it is a text that says, I'm out of the country, returning next week, I'll call you as soon as I get stateside. This has really worked for these advisory boards and house boards with their chapter council officers. Now we know, too, it's not always just about communicating with our chapter women. Our boards are intergenerational, too. As Kappa volunteers, we need to communicate effectively among ourselves. And so here are some ideas for those interactions. An advisory board round-robin email. Monthly updates are sent to the advisory board chairman or the advisory board secretary, who sends these to all advisory board members. What's going on with the chapter? An advisory board Facebook page. Perhaps this, instead of a round-robin email where everyone contributes to getting important information out and the readers are only your advisory board members or house board if you've included them as well. Advisory board minutes to fraternity officers, your PDC, RDC, and your CCS, coordinator of chapter support, needs to get these minutes, and that way you get feedback for what questions you may have or what's going on in your advisory board meeting. An annual advisory board and house board meeting is required. And what better way to do this meeting than make it a dinner? Getting to know one another socially is so important. Find the diagram of the advisory board and house board work together in the advisor booklet. It's a Venn diagram, 2 circles interlocked. And you can find that, as I say, in the advisor booklet to see how you and your house board can be interacting. Set up your most successful communications vehicles at this meeting. An annual advisory board, house board, and chapter council meeting is expected as well. All of you working to support a chapter should know one another and be on common ground. Agree on that 24-hour contract at this gathering. My belief is that a regular monthly advisory board meeting is most effective, though only 4 advisory board meetings are required annually. A board is more likely to be in attendance and efficient when the meetings are a regular event on everyone's calendar. Before and following monthly committee meetings, committee nights works well. An advisory board get-to-know-us book. A chapter I work with has produced a binder that sits on the table in the chapter's TV room. The actives look at it constantly as it's filled with biography pages, one for each advisor and house board member. There's a photo of the advisor doing what she loves to do outside of CAPA, and a blurb about her family, work, hobbies, travel that she has written. This book lets the chapter women know all kinds of things about their chapter support team, including contact information for professional networking. I've seen photos of the advisor and her advisee together, photos of the advisor as a collegian. There are myriad fun things that can be done with this book. Of course, this book can be published online, virtually, for chapters without a house or a lodge or regular meeting place, or if that's the best way to communicate with your chapter women. CAPA trainer visits are for you, and they can be requested through the Education Department at CAPA headquarters. A CAPA trained to facilitate conversations with your advisory boards and house boards can be a big help. You just need to ask for it. Your coordinator of chapter support is your advisory board and house board trainer. You or she can request a workshop when you need it. The CAPAs, what other ideas do you have for that have worked as communication vehicles? Would you send those via the questions panel now?
So actually, one of the questions that we have is, what do we do about cell phones being available during chapter meetings and even initiation?
Cell phones. Many chapters make the decision together that they ban cell phones during chapter meetings. I would suggest absolutely that they be banned during initiation. If a chapter is well prepared for initiation, they should be concentrating on what's going on there rather than anything going on outside. Chapters I know of have passed a phone basket around or someone stands at the door of the meeting where CAPAs put their phones in to retrieve them after the meeting. No telephone should be allowed during any part of recruitment, as dangerous illegal communication could be taking place with potential new members. So it is a chapter decision to ban phones whenever necessary. That's my opinion. Sam, some thoughts on that?
Well, I actually have one comment, too, that someone typed in it just to address, and that is this advisor says that when she was in the chapter that she was told that anything regarding taking away people's cell phones or asking them to leave them behind was considered hazing, and that is absolutely not true. It would only be considered hazing if you were asking one particular group of individuals to do it. Since you're asking the entire chapter to do that, you're not hazing them. The other thing I think an important piece to all this is just that if we make the meeting that they're attending valuable, like with the content that this is presenting, the women would be less likely to feel like they need to distract themselves by being on their phone. So I think that that's also an important piece for when the women are planning either chapter council meetings or their chapter meetings, is to make sure what they're presenting is valuable to their members.
Great points, thanks.
Another question, actually, Joni, that came up is, can CAPA trainers be requested to speak to the chapter regarding recruitment philosophy?
Okay. A CAPA trainer comes as a requested visit from you or from a province officer from the chapter, as I stated before. The CAPA trainers are sponsored by the Kappa Kappa Gamma Foundation, which means that we are not to work with Kappa-specific information, but there is a point where a Kappa trainer could work with the chapter just in the general sense of increasing a group's membership, or asking the chapter to discuss the question, who is needed in your membership to help it grow? You could also request a recruitment visitor through the Director of Membership if that kind of conversation needs to happen.
It could also be like it could be identification of the values that you have as a chapter, and then for the examples, using a little bit more specific Kappa stuff for it, then what would you look for in the individuals that you're going to grow your chapter with that would help you keep these values intact?
Good point. Thanks. Kappa, please do take advantage of the Kappa resources available to you. On this slide, it shows you the names of your coordinator of chapter support. So find the province that you are a part of. And this is the email address for any one of the 8 coordinators of chapter support. Contacting these Kappa volunteers listed here with further questions or ideas will be very helpful, hopefully to you, and also to let the CCS team know what you are working with out there. This CCS team is committed to helping you be the very best advisor for Kappa volunteers you can be. Sam, any other questions or comments before we end our time together?
I do have actually one more question, Joni, and that is, can we access the slide presentation electronically or have a copy sent to us via email so that we can share it with our chapters for reference?
I would be happy to send this PowerPoint to you by email if you will connect with me, and I am the second one listed on that CCS list, Joan Cohen, JCC OHEN 4207 at Comcast.net. If you write to me and ask me specifically to send you this PowerPoint, I'm happy to do it. But more importantly, this webinar will be posted on the Kappa Cloud within the next couple of days, and I can let you know by email that it's there, or you can just go to the Kappa website and find it. So it will be there for you to share with your advisory boards or with chapters, any other group you would like to share it with. It's up there for you to use. So thank you, Kappas, for your participation tonight. I appreciate very, very much your hard work every day with our chapter members. Our chapters could not survive without your dedication and support, so thank you. I hope you've come away with just a few good ideas and that you'll keep asking questions. Thanks so much. Good luck.